What do you do when the man who traded you in for a younger woman finds out you have more power than his billions can buy? Have you ever stayed silent while someone underestimated you? Have you ever smiled in a room where people thought they owned you, knowing they had no idea what you were building? This is the story of a wife who found out her billionaire husband was cheating and chose not to scream, not to beg, but to plan. Cole Harrington stands in the center of a glittering DC gala, a broken champagne glass at his feet, cameras turning away from him toward the black woman stepping out beside the president, his wife, Danica Reed. The woman he dismissed as just doing law stuff walks past him in a white gown, hand resting lightly on the president's arm, eyes calm as if he is nothing more than a stranger at a hotel lobby bar. While Cole was flying influencers to rooftop suites, Danica was quietly helping rewrite federal justice policy and rerouting pieces of his empire in ways he still does not understand. The cameras flash around her now, not him. Every reporter in the room shifts focus. Riley, the lifestyle blogger clinging to his arm moments earlier, stares with her phone half raised, frozen between confusion and panic. He thought this night would seal his return to public glory. He had no idea his wife's name was already printed at the top of the guest list, right beside the presidential seal. Watch to the end to see how a quiet attorney from Southwest Atlanta turned humiliation into a kind of justice no court could fully measure. Before we go back 6 months to where this started, drop silence in the comments if you've ever pretended everything was fine while secretly plotting your exit, and hit like if you believe success can be the sharpest revenge. To understand why that glass shattered in his hand, you have to go back to a humid night in Miami when one email changed everything. By the time Cole stumbled through their penthouse door, the part of Danica that still trusted him had already died. 6 months earlier, Miami heat pressed against the floor-to-ceiling windows while Danica worked through case files at the kitchen island. Her civil rights case had taken months to build, and tonight she was close to finding the pattern that would break it open. Then the investigators' email arrived. No warning, just a subject line that read, "What you asked me to confirm." She opened it. Photos loaded one by one. Cole and a young blonde woman, Riley, in Las Vegas. Pool chairs pressed together, his hand on her thigh. Another image from Malibu, bodies close on a restaurant balcony. Then Chicago, her head tipped back laughing at something he said, wearing a necklace Danica recognized from their anniversary trip to Paris. She scrolled in silence. No tears, no shaking hands, just the cold, clear certainty that her instincts had been right for months. Every late meeting, every last-minute trip, every time he turned his phone face down on the counter. Growing up in Southwest Atlanta, she had made herself a promise at 15 after watching her aunt beg a man to stay. She would never be the woman who pleaded for love. She would never make herself small to keep a man who had already chosen to walk away. Her mind flashed to 2 weeks ago, Cole kissing her neck in this same kitchen, his hands sliding up her shirt, using touch to distract her from questions about his Seattle trip. She had let herself believe the heat was real. Now, she saw it for what it was, a transaction to keep her quiet. If you saw proof like this, would you confront on the spot or move in silence? Comment confront or plan below. She closed the laptop and pressed her palm over her heart, counting breaths to steady the rage building in her chest. Then she opened a hidden folder on her own computer, one labeled only with his initials. Inside were months of screenshots, bank transfers, flight records, evidence she had been quietly saving since the first time his story about a conference did not match his credit card statement. By morning, the only trace of her heartbreak was the way she buttered her toast with surgical precision while he bragged about Aspen. Cole walked into the kitchen smelling like expensive body wash and last night's whiskey, hair still wet from the shower. He poured coffee and launched into plans for an upcoming business summit in Colorado. His tone was casual, like he was describing the weather. Danica listened, slicing a grapefruit with the same focus she used to cross-examine witnesses. Every detail he offered now played against the investigators' photos. The investor meetings lined up with Riley's social media posts from the same cities. The early flights matched the time she had tracked his location turning off. She asked simple questions, supportive ones. How long will you be gone? Do you need me to handle anything while you're away? Each answer was a lie, smooth and confident, delivered while he checked his phone and smiled at something on the screen. His hand came to rest on her waist as he passed behind her chair to refill his mug. The touch was familiar, possessive, the kind of gesture that used to make her feel claimed in a good way. Now it felt like a stranger marking territory he thought he owned. She forced herself not to pull away. Not yet. Moving too soon would show her hand before she was ready. Have you ever pretended not to know the truth, just to see how far someone would go with their lie? Tell your story in the comments. He stepped onto the balcony to take a call, voice low and laughing. Through the glass, she watched him lean against the railing, relaxed and easy, a man with nothing to hide. Her phone screen lit up on the counter. An unknown DC number. The preview read, White House Counsel's Office. While Cole shouted about bottle service, another man calmly offered her a seat at the most powerful table in the country. Danica stepped into the guest bedroom and closed the door, heart pounding as she answered. The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, asking if she had a moment to discuss a potential advisory role. The White House Counsel's Office had been following her work on the Georgia case, the one that challenged sentencing disparities and police accountability. They wanted to bring her to D.C. to help shape federal justice reform. She kept her voice steady, asking the right questions, taking mental notes while her pulse raced. This was the kind of opportunity she had dreamed about since law school. The kind of work that mattered beyond billable hours and settlements. A chance to rewrite policy for people who looked like her, who grew up in neighborhoods like Southwest Atlanta, where one traffic stop could end a life. The door swung open. Cole wandered in mid-call, shirt unbuttoned, smelling of cologne from last night that she had stopped finding attractive months ago. He brushed his lips over her cheek in a thoughtless goodbye, the kind of kiss that held no meaning, just muscle memory. She felt the warmth of his mouth and the scratch of his morning stubble and wondered how many times Riley had felt the same thing in hotel rooms across the country. If life handed you a dream opportunity while your relationship was falling apart, which would you focus on first, the love or the latter? Comment below. The voice on the phone continued. We'd love to have you in D.C. next month for a formal meeting. Does that work with your schedule? Cole grabbed his keys from the dresser, waved, and walked out without waiting for her to respond. She waited until she heard the elevator doors close. Then she said into the phone, Next month works perfectly. When the call ended, she looked at her reflection in the mirror across the room and whispered, Next month, I might not be Mrs. Harrington anymore. That night, the only heat in their bedroom came from the laptop glow on her face. Danica sat cross-legged on the bed, files spread across the comforter in careful stacks. Prenup clauses, asset lists, email chains, bank account numbers. She worked methodically the way she prepped for trial, building the case piece by piece. Every screenshot from the investigator went into a secure cloud folder. Every receipt that contradicted his stories. Every time his location data did not match his explanations. She opened an encrypted message to a colleague in New York, someone she trusted from law school, who now specialized in asset protection. The message was brief. Need to discreetly restructure some holdings. Limiting access in case of misconduct surfacing. Can you help? The reply came fast. Absolutely. Send me what you have. From the bathroom, she heard Cole's voice rise over the sound of running water. He was on speakerphone in the shower, laughing with someone, words muffled by steam but the tone unmistakable, flirty, easy, private. She remembered when that shower meant tangled bodies and wet kisses, her back pressed against cold tile, his hands everywhere. Now the water ran for someone else, even if that someone was not physically there. Have you ever stayed in the same bed with someone after you already decided they were no longer yours? Type stayed if you've done that. She finished the transfer authorization for one of his shell companies, the one he barely paid attention to, but that held significant value. Her fingers hovered over the submit button. This was the line. Once she crossed it, there was no pretending she had not made a choice. She clicked. As the confirmation screen loaded, her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. This time, the name attached made her breath catch. a high-profile DC journalist known for breaking stories about power, corruption, and the people who thought they were untouchable. To the world, they looked like a flawless couple. In reality, every camera flash felt like a lie burning her skin. Cole insisted they attend a charity event in Miami, one of those glittering nights where tech money and old money pretended to care about the same causes. He wanted photos, proof of their perfect life to counter whispers that had started circulating in certain circles. Danica put on a black dress, simple and elegant, and painted her face with the same calm she wore in court. They posed on the step and repeat, his arm around her waist, pulling her close. She smiled, leaned in, let him kiss her temple for the cameras. Every flash felt like evidence of a crime she was committing against herself. Inside the ballroom, she caught something in one of the event monitors cycling through social media feeds. Riley's face, a live stream from Los Angeles. The girl was at some rooftop party, laughing in her phone, caption reading "Best night with the best people." In the background, barely visible, was a logo Danica recognized, the hotel chain Cole's company had invested in last year. Two separate performances of his affection playing out at the same time, hundreds of miles apart. Cole pulled her close again for another candid shot, fingers pressing in her hip, whispering how good she looked on his arm, how the photographers loved them together. She leaned in just enough to keep up appearances, feeling nothing but cold where there used to be heat. Have you ever smiled for a photo with someone you no longer trusted? Drop a performing arts in the chat if you know that mask. During a speech from the event host, her phone buzzed in her clutch. A push notification from a gossip site. Tech billionaire's mystery companion spotted in Vegas. Photos inside. She did not need to click. The blurred silhouette in the thumbnail was clearly Riley, walking out of a casino with a man whose build and walk she would recognize anywhere. That night, he reached for her in bed, not knowing she was already reaching for her exit. Back at the penthouse after the charity event, Cole followed Danica into the bedroom, tugging his tie loose with one hand and reaching for her waist with the other. His voice dropped into that low register he used when he wanted something, words smooth and practiced. He kissed her shoulder, then her neck, fingers sliding up her spine to unzip her dress. She let him, stood still while his mouth traced familiar paths across her skin. Watched his face the way she studied witnesses on the stand, cataloging every movement, every calculated touch. His hands knew where to go, muscle memory from years of marriage, but there was no connection behind it, just performance. He pulled her closer, breath warm against her ear, whispering things that once would have made her pulse race. Now, they sounded like lines from script he had used before, probably with Riley in some hotel room last week. When his fingers moved to the clasp of her bra, she placed her hand over his, gentle but firm. "I'm exhausted," she said, voice soft, apologetic. Long day. Confusion flickered across his face. Then frustration. He was not used to being turned down, especially not by her. "You sure?" he asked, trying one more kiss, one more touch. She stepped back, offering a tired smile that gave him nothing. "Would you still sleep with a partner you knew was cheating if you were quietly planning to leave? Be honest in the comments." He fell asleep within minutes, snoring lightly, one arm flung across the empty space where she should have been. Danica slipped out of bed, grabbed her laptop, and moved to the living room. She opened a blank document and began drafting her memo for the advisory role, fingers flying across the keyboard. In the section about conflict of interest disclosures, she typed Cole's business names with clinical precision, noting exactly which federal policies would intersect with his holdings. Before she could decide her future, she had to remember where she came from. 3 days later, Danica flew to Atlanta alone, telling Cole she needed to take a break from cases and see her family. She stayed with her mother in the same small house where she grew up, sleeping in her childhood bedroom with its faded purple walls and old debate team trophies. She walked the streets of Southwest Atlanta in the morning, past the corner store where she used to buy candy, past the school where a teacher first told her she should be a lawyer. She thought about the girls she grew up with who never got the chances she did. Girls who got stopped by police for walking home. Girls whose brothers got sentenced to decades for mistakes that rich kids walked away from with warnings. This neighborhood made her who she was. The injustice she saw here, the way the system treated people who looked like her, that was what pushed her toward law school, toward fighting cases no one else wanted to touch. A memory surfaced unbidden. Cole visiting Atlanta years ago, back when they were still dating. He had kissed her in her mother's cramped kitchen, saying he wanted to build something real with her, something that mattered. She believed him then. Now that memory felt like a cheap sales pitch from a man who never understood what building actually meant. Does going home make you stronger or weaker when you're facing a big decision? Share your experience. That night at dinner, her aunt set down a plate of cornbread and looked at her hard. "All that money is cute, baby," she said quietly. "But if he's acting like he owns you, you need a different kind of wealth." Danika's phone buzzed on the table. An email notification. She opened it, scanning the words twice to make sure she read them right. Confirmation of her first in-person meeting at the White House, scheduled for the following week. Cole thought her Miami office was where the real power sat. He had no idea she was walking through the gates of the White House. Danica flew to D.C. alone, checking into a modest hotel near the Capitol. No driver, no pontouse suite, just her garment bag and a folder full of policy proposals she had worked on for weeks. She woke early, dressed in a navy suit that made her feel like herself. Not like someone's wife, but like an attorney who earned her seat. Security waved her through the gates. She walked past tourists taking photos, past reporters doing stand-ups on the lawn, and into the West Wing itself. The hallways were smaller than she expected, but somehow bigger, weighted with history and power. The meeting room was full of senior aides and members of the council's team. They listened when she spoke. Actually listened. Asked follow-up questions about her ideas on sentencing reform, on policing accountability, on how to address disparities without just shuffling paperwork. These people saw her mind first. Not her body, not her husband's money, just her work. A thoughtful young policy advisor named Marcus walked her through the corridors after the meeting, pointing out rooms where decisions got made, where history happened. Their shoulders brushed occasionally in the narrow hallways. While he complimented her proposal, calling it some of the sharpest thinking he had seen in months, there was genuine respect in his voice. A spark of something else, too. Not urgent or desperate, just the hint of a future emotional connection she had not allowed herself to imagine in years. Have you ever had someone see your mind first, not your body or your status? Drop a brain if that changed everything for you. As she left the building, stepping back into the sunlight, her phone lit up with a message from Cole. A shirtless selfie from a private jet, abs on full display, caption "Missed this." The flight log showed Los Angeles as the destination. She deleted it without responding. On one coast, he chased content. On the other, she chased justice. The next few weeks split into two separate realities. In Los Angeles, Cole attended influencer brunches with Riley, posted photos from rooftop pools, and closed brand deals over bottles of champagne. He sent Danica pictures of sunsets and luxury cars, keeping up the appearance of a man in demand. Meanwhile, Danica moved between Miami and D.C., quietly restructuring assets and deepening her role in the advisory position. She attended policy briefings, reviewed draft legislation, met with advocacy groups who had been fighting for reform long before she arrived. Every conversation felt like progress. Every signature she secured on financial documents felt like taking back control. Cole's carelessness grew. He stopped being careful about where Riley appeared in the background of his social media. Stopped covering his tracks with elaborate lies. He assumed Danica was too busy with work to notice, or maybe too dependent on his money to care. Late at night, he sent her texts and voice notes, trying to keep some thread of intimacy alive. His tone dropped low and suggestive, words designed to remind her of what they used to have. She played each message once, then deleted it, feeling more detached each time. The man in those recordings was a stranger performing a role. Can emotional distance start while physical contact continues? Have you felt that slow disconnect? Her phone rang. The New York colleague, voice urgent but controlled. "If you want to secure what you built, we need signatures this quarter, preferably before he realizes what you're doing." Danica looked out at the Miami skyline. then at the DC itinerary on her screen. "I'll handle it," she said. "He won't see it coming." He was so used to signing whatever she put in front of him that he didn't notice the signature was his first step off the throne. The documents arrived by private courier, labeled as routine tax and liability updates. Danica spread them across the marble kitchen island early one Saturday morning, organized into neat stacks with color-coded tabs marking signature lines. When Cole wandered in, coffee in hand, she was already dressed and working through emails on her phone. "Need you to sign these before your trip," she said casually, sliding the first stack toward him. "Tax stuff. End of quarter." He barely glanced at the pages. She knew he wouldn't. He trusted her to handle the boring parts of wealth management, the paperwork that kept his empire running smoothly. What he did not know was that buried within the routine language were clauses shifting control of key trusts, limiting his access to certain accounts if misconduct surfaced, and restructuring holdings in ways that protected her interests first. She leaned over beside him, close enough that her perfume surrounded him. The curve of her neck, the way her blouse dipped just slightly, she knew exactly what distracted him. His eyes flicked from the page to her body and back again, attention split. He signed the first page, then the second. His free hand traced a lazy path up her thigh while he scrawled his name across the third document. "You make paperwork almost interesting," he said, grinning. "Have you ever used someone's arrogance against them without saying a single harsh word?" She smiled. "Stay close. Watch him sign away pieces of his control without asking a single follow-up question." When he finished the last page, he smacked her lightly on the hip, still grinning. "This is why I keep you around," he said, laughing like it was a compliment. She collected the documents, slid them back into the folder, and kissed his cheek. "I know," she said. What he didn't know was that he had just tightened a legal noose around his own neck, one he had willingly stepped into while thinking about her body instead of reading the fine print. The Miami Industry Mixer was one of those events where tech money mingled with media people, everyone pretending connections mattered more than cash. Danica attended because a client asked her to make an appearance. She wore black, kept her drink in hand but barely touched it, and worked the room with the same efficiency she used in depositions. Then Riley walked in on Cole's arm. He introduced her as a brand consultant, smiling that easy smile he used when he thought he was getting away with something. Riley's blonde hair fell in perfect waves. Her dress was tight, expensive, chosen to be noticed. And when she leaned in to greet someone, Danica caught the scent. Chanel No. 5, the same fragrance Danica had worn since law school, the same bottle that used to sit on their bathroom counter. People glanced between the two women, sensing something beneath the surface but not quite understanding what. Riley's confidence flickered when their eyes met. A flash of insecurity crossed her face before she recovered, lifting her chin and pressing closer to Cole's side. Cole kept his hand on Riley's lower back, fingers spread wide in that possessive gesture he once reserved for Danica at firm events. The same touch, the same placement, like he had a script he ran with every woman. Across the room, their eyes locked. For a heartbeat, Danica felt the ghost of old desire, memories of when that touch meant something, when his hands on her body felt like home instead of a transaction. Now it curdled into something cold and sharp. Would you confront the other woman in public, or let your silence speak? Comment what you would do. Riley leaned close to Cole, laughing at something, then turned back to the group. Her voice carried across the space. "We're so excited for that DC thing next month. The gala's going to be incredible." Cole's face tightened. He shot her a look, but the damage was done. Danica smiled, took a sip of her drink, and walked away. He had never mentioned any DC gala to her. Not once. He thought he was bringing his new prize to the Capitol. He had no idea his wife's name was already printed on the guest list. 2 days later, a formal envelope arrived at the Miami penthouse by private courier. Heavy cardstock, presidential seal embossed in gold. Danica opened it alone in the bedroom while Cole was out at another meeting. Inside was an invitation to a DC gala honoring leaders in criminal justice reform. Her name appeared in elegant script beneath the event details, followed by a note, "Special Federal Advisor." The date matched exactly what Riley had mentioned at the mixer. She sat on the edge of the bed, holding the invitation, feeling the weight of perfect timing. Cole planned to parade Riley through Washington at an event designed to celebrate the work Danica had been doing in silence. The irony was almost too clean. Her phone buzzed. A message from her DC contact. Stylist will send options for the gala. President's team wants you to arrive with him. Big moment for the reform work. Danica stood and walked to the closet. She pulled out the simple white gown the stylist had sent for approval weeks ago, back when she thought she might attend alone or skip the event entirely. Now she held it up to the light, running her hands over the fabric. Every time Cole had critiqued her style, too plain, not flashy enough, not the kind of woman who turned heads, echoed in her memory. She thought about Riley's tight dresses and calculated poses. Then she looked at the white gown again, elegant and understated, the kind of dress a woman wore when she did not need to scream for attention. This night, she would be undeniable. Would you warn him you'll be there, or let him walk straight into that moment blind? Drop blind if you'd keep it quiet. She picked up her phone and called her DC contact, voice steady and clear. If I attend, I'd like to arrive with the president as his guest. There was a pause, then a warm laugh. He already requested exactly that. Said you earned it. As the gala approached, Cole's life looked flawless on social media, but his temper started to flare at the smallest questions. Something shifted in Cole during the weeks leading up to DC. He became irritable, snapping at small things that never bothered him before. A missed call from Danica while he was in meetings. Her schedule conflicts that meant she could not attend his events. The way she spent more time traveling between Miami and Washington without explaining every detail. He sensed her emotional distance, but could not name its source. To him, she was just busier with work, distracted, maybe a little cold. He told himself it was stress, that all marriages went through phases, that his own absences balanced hers out. But tension built in the space between them. One night, an argument sparked over nothing, something about dinner plans he forgot and a charity event she committed them to without asking. His voice rose. Hers stayed level. That calm only made him angrier, like she was watching him from somewhere far away instead of standing right in front of him. The argument shifted fast, the way it sometimes did when words could not carry the weight of what was really wrong. He grabbed her wrist, pulled her close, kissed her hard. She kissed back, not with passion, but with something rougher. Both of them using physical contact to avoid speaking the truth neither wanted to say out loud. His hands moved to her waist, then higher. Her breath came fast against his neck. For a moment, it felt like old heat returning, bodies remembering what minds had already decided to forget. Then she pulled away first, just stopped, stepped back, left him standing in the hallway, breathing hard, confused and frustrated about why he no longer felt in control. Have you ever used intimacy as a way to avoid a hard conversation? Be honest. He stormed out, muttering about needing air. She watched him leave, then walked calmly to the bedroom. On her laptop, a secure email waited from her divorce attorney. The subject line, "Final drafts ready for service." Inside were documents prepared to be filed the week after the gala, timed precisely so the public moment would happen before the legal one. On one jet, he toasted new beginnings with a lifestyle blogger. On another plane, she reviewed legal documents that would end his. Cole and Riley flew from Florida to D.C. in high spirits, champagne chilling in the jet's cabin, music playing low while she filmed content for her followers. She posed with the leather seats, with the city lights below, with Cole's arm around her shoulders. He toasted new beginnings while she giggled and called him her favorite adventure. The flight felt like a victory lap. He was bringing Riley to Washington, showing her off at a major event, proving to anyone who still questioned his choices that he could have whoever he wanted. The gala would be another photo opportunity, another chance to control his narrative. Meanwhile, Danica sat alone on a government-arranged flight, reviewing briefing documents and gala protocol with a member of the president's security team. No champagne, no selfies, just quiet preparation for the moment she had been building toward for months. She wore comfortable clothes for the flight, jeans and a soft sweater, and absently touched the bare skin at her collarbone where her wedding necklace used to rest. She had stopped wearing it 3 weeks ago. The absence felt like quiet liberation, a small weight removed that she had not realized was pressing down on her. Riley straddles Cole's lap in the leather jet seat for a suggestive selfie. He smirks, enjoying the performance. Can two people be in love with the same person for completely different reasons? Share your thoughts. As both planes began their descent toward D.C., notifications lit up phones across the city. A major news outlet had just published a feature, "The Quiet Attorney Reshaping Federal Justice Policy." The article included Danika's photo, her background, her work on the Georgia case, and her new advisory role. On Cole's jet, Riley scrolled past it without recognition. On Danika's plane, a security staffer smiled and said, "Nice piece. You're going to make waves tonight." Only one of them understood that the waves were already crashing. He walked into the ballroom convinced every eye would be on him. For a few minutes, he was right. Cole and Riley arrived at the D.C. gala like royalty. Cameras flashed the moment they stepped from the car. Reporters shouted his name, asking about his latest ventures, his presence in Washington, who his stunning companion was. He grinned, soaking in the attention, one hand resting on Riley's waist while she beamed and recorded every second for her followers. She wore a dress that sparkled under the lights, something designed to be remembered. Her entire online brand depended on moments like this, being seen with powerful people, attending exclusive events, proving she belonged in rooms most people would never enter. Inside the ballroom, they worked the crowd. Tech executives, media personalities, political staffers. Everyone wanted a word with Cole Harrington, the billionaire who made headlines whether he tried to or not. He felt completely at ease, certain this night would remind people why he mattered. Riley pressed her body against his side on the red carpet, whispering promises about later if he played this right. Her lips brushed his ear. He grinned, intoxicated by both the attention and her touch, already imagining how the night would end. Have you ever watched someone enjoy a spotlight they didn't deserve, knowing a storm was coming? They entered the main ballroom. Music played. Glasses clinked. Conversations hummed with the energy of people who believed they were important. Then the lights dimmed. A voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the President of the United States and his distinguished guest, civil rights attorney and special federal advisor, Danica Reed." Cole froze. The champagne glass in his hand trembled. Every head in the room turned toward the entrance doors as they opened wide. He did not drop the glass because he was clumsy. He dropped it because, for the first time, he knew he was not the main character here. Danica walked through those doors in a white gown that caught every light in the room, her hand resting lightly on the president's arm. The entire ballroom rose to its feet. Applause thundered through the space. Cameras that had been pointed at Cole and Riley swung away, lenses hunting for the woman everyone suddenly wanted to see. Cole stood frozen in the center of the floor, champagne glass trembling in his hand. He watched his wife, the woman he had dismissed as just doing law stuff, move through the crowd with quiet power. She did not rush, did not perform, just walked with her head high while every influential person in that room turned to acknowledge her. The glass slipped from his fingers. The sound of crystal hitting marble cut through the music like a gunshot. People nearby turned to look. Riley grabbed his arm, confused, whispering something he could not hear over the roaring in his ears. As Danica passed their spot, her eyes met his. Years of intimacy compressed into one silent, devastating look. Every morning in their kitchen, every night in their bed, every lie he told while her face stayed calm. All of it flashed between them in a single heartbeat. She did not slow her stride, did not nod, did not acknowledge him as anything more than another face in the crowd. In that moment, should she have acknowledged him with a nod, or treated him like air? Comment what you think. A reporter near the entrance caught Cole's shaken reaction on live video. Another journalist pulled Danica aside, microphone extended, asking about her advisory work. She smiled, poised and professional. "This isn't about my marriage," she said clearly. "It's about justice." Public embarrassment was only the first cut. The deep wounds were still on their way. Within hours, footage of the gala went viral. Cole's stunned face, The dropped glass. Danika's entrance beside the president. Social media exploded with commentary. People who had followed Cole's tech success now questioned everything. Who was this woman he married? How did she end up advising the president while he was posting pool parties with influencers? Old rumors surfaced fast. Gossip sites that had held back stories about his wild nights in Vegas and Miami suddenly felt bold enough to publish photos of him with Riley. Anonymous sources talking about reckless behavior. Investors started making quiet calls, asking questions about his judgment and whether his personal life was becoming a business liability. Branch reconsidered partnerships. Board members scheduled emergency meetings. Everything he built on image and confidence started cracking because the image no longer held. Alone in his D.C. hotel suite that night, Riley tried everything to pull his attention back. She undressed slowly, whispered things designed to make him forget the ballroom. He went through the motions, body responding while his mind stayed elsewhere, scrolling through old photos of Danica on his phone. Pictures from their early days. Her laughing in a cramped apartment, kissing him on a fire escape, smiling without private jets or designer clothes. He felt anger and desire twisting together, confused about when he lost control of the narrative he thought he owned. Is humiliation a fair part of karma when someone made you feel small in private? Or is it too far? Riley, sensing his distraction, tried harder. It worked only halfway. His body was there. His mind was in that ballroom, watching cameras turn away from him like he was nobody. Back in Miami, hotel staff slid a thick envelope under the penthouse door. Inside, divorce papers and notices of asset transfers already executed, signed by judges, locked in legal systems he could not undo. He always believed consequences were for other people, until sirens painted his windshield blue and red. Cole flew back to Miami in a spiral. The gala humiliation. The divorce papers. Investors pulling back. Riley's growing frustration with his distraction. Everything collapsing at once. He started partying harder. Clubs every night. Substances he used to take occasionally became daily habits. Friends who should have stopped him just took photos instead, posting his downfall for content. One night, after hours at a South Beach club, Riley sent him a message. She was in Los Angeles, already moving on to the next wealthy man with a better public image. Her text read, "Prove you're still that wild guy I met. Stop being boring." The words hit him like a dare. He downed another drink. Took something someone handed him without asking what it was. When security tried to take his keys, he shoved past them, stumbling into the driver's seat of his car. The road blurred. Light streaked. His phone buzzed with notifications, probably more bad press, more people turning away. He pushed the gas pedal down, needing to feel in control of something, anything. He did not see the other car until impact. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The world spun in violent circles. When everything stopped, sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Red and blue lights painted his cracked windshield. 5 people in the other car. A family coming home from dinner. None of them survived. Can one bad night erase everything good someone has done, or just reveal who they always were? In her D.C. hotel room, Danica was reviewing foundation documents when her phone rang. A contact from Miami, voice shaking. She turned on the television. The breaking news banner read, "Tech billionaire Cole Harrington arrested after fatal crash." Her fingers trembled as the anchor said, "Sources confirm the driver is tech billionaire Cole Harrington. 5 victims. Alcohol and drugs suspected." He once called her just a lawyer. Now a courtroom full of cameras waited to hear what she would say about the man in the jumpsuit. Cole was charged with 5 counts of vehicular manslaughter, DUI, and reckless endangerment. Public fury exploded instantly. The victims were a mother, father, 2 children, and their grandmother. People with names, lives, futures stolen by a billionaire who thought rules did not apply to him. Prosecutors built their case methodically. Toxicology reports, witness statements, security footage from the club showing Cole stumbling, refusing help, getting behind the wheel. His past became evidence. Every reckless party, every ignored warning, every time someone tried to stop him and he laughed it off. Danica was subpoenaed as a potential witness. Prosecutors wanted her testimony about his drinking patterns, his habits, the warnings she gave him during their marriage. A federal judge who had read her reform work and respected her legal mind presided over pretrial hearings. The day before her testimony, Cole requested a private moment in a holding room. His lawyer advised against it. He insisted. She walked in wearing a navy suit, the same kind she wore to court for work. He sat in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, looking smaller than she remembered. When their eyes met, something broke in his expression. He reached for her hand across the table. "You know me better than anyone," he whispered, voice cracking. "You know my body, my fears, everything I never showed anyone else." For a heartbeat, old muscle memory responded. A flash of mornings tangled in sheets. His arms around her waist in their kitchen. The way he used to kiss her forehead when she was stressed about cases. She pulled her hand back. "I knew who you were," she said quietly. "That's why I left. If you were Danica, would you soften your words on the stand? Or tell the full truth?" The next day, she took the stand. The prosecutor asked whether Cole ever ignored warnings about his drinking and driving. Danica looked at the victims' families sitting in the front row. A grandmother clutching photos. A man who lost his daughter and grandchildren. She took a long breath and answered, "Yes. Multiple times. I told him he was going to hurt someone. He said consequences were for other people." The courtroom went silent. Cole's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Danica's testimony, delivered in calm, measured words, sealed his fate. The woman he once dismissed as a shadow built a legacy that would outlive his mugshot. Cole received a 25-year sentence. The judge cited his recklessness, his refusal to accept responsibility, and the devastation he caused. As they led him away, he looked back at the gallery one last time. Danica was already gone. She finalized the divorce while he sat in prison. The settlement, combined with the assets she had quietly secured months earlier, gave her more than enough to fund the foundation she had been planning. She named it after the 5 victims, dedicating it to families harmed by reckless driving and economic inequality. The foundation opened offices in D.C., Atlanta, and Miami. Danica split her time between all 3 cities, now on her own terms. She testified before Congress on sentencing reform, advised the White House on policing accountability, spoke at universities about using law to create change instead of just punishing people after harm was done. Reporters asked about Cole occasionally. She always gave the same answer. "My work speaks for itself." In prison, Cole slowly accepted that his fall was not an accident. It was not bad luck or jealous enemies. It was the natural end of a life built on believing he was untouchable. Letters from Danica never came. She had moved on completely, building something that would last long after his sentence ended. 2 years after the trial, Danica attended a foundation event in D.C. families who benefited from the work gathered to celebrate new scholarships and legal aid programs. As the evening wound down, Marcus, the policy advisor who had walked her through the West Wing years ago, helped her out of her blazer. His fingers brushed the back of her neck. Their eyes met, full of unhurried promise. "No, Rus, no dos pedastion." Just the possibility of a future love grounded in respect, not dependency. So if you were Danica, would you have chosen silence, revenge, or forgiveness? Comment which path you'd take. If this story hit a nerve, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember that success can speak louder than any argument. He once thought she was the quiet one in the corner. Turned out, she was the reason the room ever listened at all.